topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Houston, Texas, my old stomping grounds. Hey, welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Our show today, which we've been promoting for the last couple days, is Taxation Solutions. I got to tell you, I love doing this show. We have been together doing a show, I guess, 12 or 15 years now. Barry and I we clicked when we first met in Denver, Colorado. Barry came in to see our operation, and it's just, sometimes you just have this click with somebody. And one of the reasons why is I trust Barry so much in a field that I got to tell you, there are some Barry would never say this, but there are some companies out there that you need to be really careful of. But I never have to worry with Barry. I know he's going to take care of his clients. And I'm telling you, please, we will be giving out the phone number during the show. If you've got yourself or a family member, a relative, a friend who's having a problem with the IRS, you want to write this number down and absolutely do your friend or family member a favor. He's just the best of the best. Good morning, Barry.
Hey, there we are. Good morning,
Ah,
Steve. How are you?
were you on mute?
I don't know where I was. Out in Neverland, I guess, or studying, the latest tax bill. I think
Are
that's
the
all.
chickens still in the back, Barry? Or
What's that?
Can you see the chickens?
No, not today. We're actually working out of the office. We've been having to do a lot of studying this last week. Since July.
Oh yeah.
July 4th is supposed to be a holiday, but Trump took the time to sign this one big, beautiful bill, or as they call it, the OBBB.
Yes.
So it's created a lot of work for us, just so that not only here talking to the listeners that Ask the Experts, but also on my show, Tax Talk for You. We had to start discussing this one big, beautiful bill and the wonderful things that it's going to provide for every taxpayer across the board. And, one of the best things is it permanently put in place the Trump tax cuts from 2017. We didn't have to revert back next year to that mess of a bill and everybody having to pay at least $2,100 more in taxes because they hadn't made the bill permanent back in 17, and Democrats were fighting against everything.
Barry, it's amazing you brought this up because, we started promoting your show 2 to 3 days out, and we've got probably 6, 7 letters of people going, please talk about the new tax laws. I got to tell you, Barry, this is the biggest question, and I really trust your opinion, is people are saying that these new tax laws going to only help the rich. I know you've heard that before.
Well, first off, that's probably the most ridiculous statement out of anybody's mouth that's out there. And I'm sorry if you sent that letter in. I'm not calling it ridiculous, but you've just been listening to the propaganda from the media, from the Democrats, and everybody that wants to bash Trump and Republicans for what they did. No, first thing you got to understand is locking in the 2017 tax code was a savings for everybody. It lowered the
Right.
marginal rates. It put in a high standard deduction. So even if you didn't own a home and paying mortgage and all that, you got to take advantage of that standard deduction regardless. So it helped every American, and it helped the middle class and the lower income people because you weren't paying any tax except Social Security and Medicare. So, it was a wonderful thing. And I think, the real hard part is Trump promised no tax on Social Security.
Right.
Well, he has to get things through the House and then through the Senate, and they didn't actually pass no tax on Social Security. What they did is gave anybody 65 or older a $6,000 tax credit. So
Is that how much it is, Barry? 6,000?
6,000 for each, so if you're just single and filing over 65, it's 6,000. If you're both husband and wife over 65 or 65 or older, you get 6,000 each. So there's a lot of caveats in a lot of these rules, meaning you got to file joint if you're married on a couple of them. That includes the senior deduction. If you're married, you got to file married filing joint. You can't file married filing separate and get that 6,000 deduction. So there's a little tweaks to the rules. Don't like some of them, but overall, this is very beneficial to every single American across the board. And hey, if you're not making a ton of money and you get that $6,000 tax credit and it eliminates all your tax, you won, right?
Right.
That's what I consider. Now they have phased a lot of these things too. So,
you're learning the new provisions in the tax laws now. Are there a lot of changes?
Well, most of the changes have to do with Trump's promises. So, he promised that deduction for seniors. He promised no tax on tips. He made some other promises, and they've put all these things in the bill. Maybe not his exact wording that he wanted, but it accomplished basically the same thing. Now, this bill is like 873 pages long.
Wow.
Now, we have gone through this bill and tried to comb out every piece of tax code that's in there. We've also been working with the National Association of Tax Preparers Professionals and working with them to go through this bill as well so that, we're deciphering everything that was there. Because one of the things that we read is like in the no tax for tips, it said cash tips. But you had to read further into the bill to find out they weren't just meaning cash, but any tips that basically are reported on your W-2 form. So you're still going to pay Social Security and Medicare tax on them, which is a good thing because you got to get credit for working. And part of working is paying into Social Security and Medicare for your, hopefully it'll be there in the future. Nobody knows how this is all going to pan out 20, 30 years from now. But it gives you that tax break. Now it's up to $25,000, and then there's some phase outs out there. But it also, you have to file married filing joint if you're married, or if you're single, you just file single and you'll be able to get up to the $25,000 in deduction for tip wages. So there's a lot of good things in there. Like I said, we're still reading through this bill. I'm sure there's something hidden in there that's going to attack somebody somewhere. Because lo and behold, there's always a surprise somewhere. Somebody sneaks something in.
Barry, I have been hearing for about the last few months now that the IRS is really coming after people. Is that true? I mean, like never before.
IRS is sending more and more letters out. They're getting more and more AI involved. They're getting more and more of checking your tax return to the information that was filed, against you. I say against you because everybody's now have to report everything. So if you've gotten 1099s, it's compared to what you reported on your return. You've got W-2s, it's compared there. If you got 1099 NEC, it's looking on Schedule C. You got brokerage statements. They're reporting almost every transaction that happens in your brokerage account. And so the IRS systems, albeit they're a little outdated still and they can't do some things that we think they should be able to do, they are checking these income information to each and every tax return across the board. And so you get those letters saying you did this wrong, and then you don't answer them, and now they're coming after you to collect because you didn't report this, or they're sending you to an audit. And now you've got to go through and deal with somebody. It may be a correspondence audit that you don't know who the heck you're dealing with. It could be an actual in-person audit that you have to go to. It really varies, and it depends on your situation. We just got a person that called in this week, got an audit letter. He's getting audited because he didn't report 1099K. A 1099K is merchant transactions, but that includes Zelle, Venmo. All these companies are reporting. The guy was doing some driving for one of those drive services, and they reported his income. He didn't report it because he felt like he didn't make any money.
Right.
He didn't go to the audit or answer the audit. They now have $50,000 in tax debt because he didn't answer the audit. And in that $50,000 was fraud penalties and everything else because you underreported significantly. Yeah, well, at the end of the day, when we're going to finish doing his amended returns. He's going to owe nothing because he lost money doing it. But if you don't answer them, that's the kind of trouble you're going to get into. And then you got to really deal with collections, and that becomes a big problem.
Barry, I think you and your company are so good at what you do. And I cannot emphasize enough that a lot of people think they could just handle this themselves. And I have learned from doing so many shows with you that it's almost like David and Goliath. And you aren't Goliath, the IRS is. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is for someone to call Taxation Solutions and let you handle a problem that I think some of these people don't understand. They're getting into an area that's way over their head. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Had a client we talked to last week that should be coming to us, and he's tried to deal with his own tax problem, and now he's facing a levy against his contract work. And you got to imagine, you're out there doing work and you've got a contract, and maybe they owe you like $10,000 or something, and they levy against that. You have no income because they take it. The company has to send all the money to satisfy the levy up to whatever they owe you to the IRS. Now try to fight that and get that back. And once the IRS gets their greedy little hands on it, they're not really easy about releasing funds. We're going to try to stop the levy, and worst case is we should be able to stop it and get enough operating cash to keep him operating, pay his operating expenses, not to give him money to live on per se, but to keep his business going. And that's important right there. And then be able to start putting a plan in place. I have a trucking company that just called me. We just dealt with him this morning. He's facing a levy against his gross trucking income. He was about to change.
Gross?
Gross.
Oh,
everything that trucking company owes him. It gets worse than that. He was about to change companies, and so he's changing to leased on to be with somebody else, which is fine. He can do that. But they also have $20,000 in escrow funds for truck maintenance and insurance or something that they have there that they would normally release to him. But with the IRS levy, they're going to take every dime in that escrow account. Now, he owes the IRS close to $250,000, but he also has several years that haven't been filed that they're actually accumulating that on. So again, we can go in and file those returns and get it down to the reasonable amount. Now, get this, he was talking to somebody else. And, we're just charging him for the tax analysis and the 5 years worth of tax returns we've got to go through and do for him. They were telling him with sight unseen, we're going to charge you $15,000. We're going to do offer and compromise for you and do your returns. They don't even know if he will qualify for an offer and compromise.
wow.
Because he's in the trucking business, and we know how the trucking business goes. We know who he's going to be leased on with, and we know what kind of money these guys are making being leased on with this other company that he's going to, which means he is not close to qualifying. Plus, he's got quite a bit of assets and some retirement accounts, but yet they just want to tell him. And guess what? He's like, oh man, I just got to go over here. We're like, wait, don't do that. This is going to change. And that's what we face. Somebody selling a pipe dream versus somebody talking about reality and what truly happens when you're dealing with the IRS and what your situation is going to be and how you can make the situation work. Maybe we'll go for an offer and compromise, but let us get done with this part first and take it step by step. Then, if we can prove that you can go to an offer and compromise, we'll do the offer and compromise, and we'll give you the fees then. If it comes down, it's better for you to pay off. Maybe we have you down to a little bit of debt, because we know what's happened over the last few years in the trucking business. It's been a tough road for truckers out there. Rates used to be up here and now have come down way here, and fuel costs have gone here and haven't come all the way down yet. So it's really a tough business out there.
I just had somebody ask me about why we don't talk more about business. And we actually do, but we probably don't spend enough time on it. Barry, that's a big portion of your business, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. We get a lot of people calling us. Sorry about that. My phone was starting to go off, so I need to turn this off here. We get a lot of people who will call us to talk about their business and their business problems. And most of the business problems are payroll taxes, which, man, sometimes that is the nail in the coffin and puts the business to rest, and you can't do anything else. It also impacts when you have unpaid payroll taxes. It can impact anybody who's a signer on the checking account, anybody that was managing the business and making decisions on who gets paid and who doesn't get paid. And what the IRS does is hits them with what they call trust fund penalties. Now, trust fund penalties are only hit usually on payroll. And it's the portion that you, as an employer, withhold from your employee's check. So you withhold half Social Security and half the Medicare, basically 7.5%, and you do the federal withholding. When those two things don't get paid into the IRS, they issue trust fund penalties against the owner of the business. Now, you're going to have to pay that one way or the other. You pay it through the business, and you pay it personally until it's completely paid off. Plus, your business has to pay the other side of the tax as well, the company side. So, it becomes a very costly thing. Sometimes we get business owners that call us that don't know how they file. You set up a business, you didn't do any tax planning. I mean, I know how it goes. You know how it goes. Hey, I want to be in business. Yes. I'm going to go out there. Somebody said set up a company. Yes. I go up and set up XYZ Widgets Inc. File for my employer identification number. Now I'm in business. I don't read a doggone thing. And if you go to file your taxes and you go to your tax guy, oh yeah, I'm an S Corp. They file S Corp returns. A year later, they get rejected. Bam. Why? Because the IRS did not get your request to be an S Corp after you got your employer identification number. If you read that letter, it says you're an 1120 filer. This is due March 15th next year. Didn't say an 1120S. Your tax preparer doesn't know what they're doing, so they didn't ask you for that letter to see how you're supposed to file. Because there's things you could have done to do a late election for S Corp, but you didn't do it. But also you didn't read the letter, and on the letter, you filed for your employer identification number, it said you're going to have employees. But you didn't hire anybody, so you didn't do payroll. But the IRS expected 941s every single quarter from when you started business. The IRS expected a 940, which is the unemployment tax portion of it. Social Security would be expecting W-2s, and you didn't have any of that. IRS imposed what they figured you should have been paying for your business. How do they do that? Nobody knows. It's just magic behind the scenes. You owe $10,000 and $20,000 in payroll taxes. All of a sudden, now you got to fight that. Hey, I tell you, if you're going to be in business, get a good financial tax advisor to advise you what you should be doing, how you should be doing it. Take the advice. Hey, you like stories, right?
Well, we love your stories.
So I have this client. He's great in business. I'll be honest. When I saw what he was doing in business, man, this guy has been great in business. We just filed for an offering compromise for him. However, he sold his business. His businesses, the people that he was working with, never looked at how he was supposed to do it. He's run about 7 different businesses and swears that, hey, these are all single members, but every one of them were Incs. So they were incorporated. Every one of them has a letter from the IRS when he gave them to us that said he had to file 1120s. Or a couple of them said he had to file 1120Ss, which means he was an S Corp, but not a single preparer, because he's moved from company to company getting returns prepared, but nobody's ever asked him for those letters. So every year has been filed wrong. Now he insisted he's 100% correct. He sold his business for a good sum. We've offered the IRS a very large, sizable amount of money to settle almost a $1.5 million tax debt.
Whoa. Wow.
Now, what do we expect? We expect it to be kicked back because we know he's wrong. We've explained it to him. He's like, no, this is what I want. This is what I hired you for. And we tried to explain it. We expect to see that he's got to go back and refile every one of these returns. We might be able to get away around it, but it's going to be highly unlikely. His tax on the personal side probably won't change much, but he'll have tax on the business side. We're going to have to fight something over there, as well as penalties for non-filing. Guy's great in business, but again, he did not reach out to a enrolled agent like myself to work with him to give him the proper tax advice to keep his business rolling and keep his business in good standing, and do a lot of tax planning, which could have saved him a ton of money on the taxes he's paid or should have paid over the last 4 or 5 years.
That's crazy. You wonder why people that smart in business wouldn't have the smarts to reach out to somebody. That's just unbelievable. Hey, Barry, I got a text here Mr. Manowitz wants to know, why does the IRS try to take your business away when that is the only way that I could actually pay my taxes?
Well, I'm going to put it this way. Most people, when they're going after a business, are doing absolutely nothing to stay in compliance. They just continue to not pay the payroll taxes in. And when that continues, they have no choice, because you cannot continue to add to the debt that you have with the IRS, and you're making no effort whatsoever to be in compliance and to follow the rules. Basically, what you're doing is taking your employees' money that they're supposed to be paying into the IRS and spending it on whether it's paying yourself, cost of goods sold, keeping the doors open, and they can't afford to leave you in business doing that and not doing anything to get into compliance and stay into compliance. See, one of the big things we do with businesses that work with us, especially if they have payroll tax issues, is we work very hard to get them in compliance right away, filing the 941s, filing your 940 every year, and making sure your W-2s are paid and everything's paid in. Because once we can establish that you're going to stay in compliance, it's a lot easier to work with whoever the revenue officer is going to be assigned to your case to allow you to keep running. Now, you keep adding to the debt and they see you have assets, they're closing the business and taking the assets. You can go to the U.S. Department of Treasury's website and see how many businesses they have closed down. The amazing things is that I've been on that website because I sometimes like to go in there and look and see what they're doing. There are some states that it's very costly to get a liquor license, and they're selling the liquor license there on their website because it's going to generate a good amount of money when they go and sell that liquor license in that state, because they're not giving out anymore, in those areas. So it becomes an asset. I've seen them selling businesses buildings. So if you own your building, even if you get a loan on it, if it's got equity in it, they can go through and close it down and take it. Inventory, we've seen where they've taken inventory, company vehicles, you name it, they do it because what's their job? Collections. Do they really care about you, I, or the business? No. Their job is one thing and one thing only, is to bring money into the IRS and get you in compliance so this isn't a continuing habit to go through and do.
Barry, give out your phone number and your website. We need to start giving that out more.
Hey, Steve, I've always said, I'm really bad at this. And our phone number is 877-996-6477. Again, 877-996-6477. And it's taxationsolutions.net. Remember, we're the safety net between you and the IRS. We're going to keep them away. So that's why we are taxationsolutions.net. Hey, I just came up with that on the fly. Safety net, taxationsolutions.net.
Hey, Barry, I got to tell you, I've told you before on the show, I do a lot of due diligence, and I like to read these Google reports about different businesses. And it seems like in your business, there's a lot of these, you're a national company, but there's these national companies that have celebrities on there doing their commercials for them. And I look at the letters from their customers, and the number one thing is, once I paid them the money, it was so hard to ever get a hold of anybody. That is one thing they're not going to have a problem with Taxation Solutions.
Absolutely not. We're here. We answer the phones. There's no AI answering. I do have an answering service for after hours, and they'll get a message to us. We're here to be of service. Steve, what I'll say is it's not just national companies that have a problem with this. There's a lot of local businesses, and there's a lot of people in this industry that give this industry a very bad name. People that aren't going to do what they say they're going to do. It's really easy. You and I and everybody is the same way. We always like things that sound really good. Easy to make money, do this. Easy to, fix this, just do this. You watch the do-it-yourselfers on YouTube or, wherever else they may be posting them out. And, it sounds easy, looks easy, let's just do it. But it's not as easy in this business as people think. If you're a do-it-yourselfer, it's, hey, you're now emotionally attached. And being emotional about this, when you call somebody and they promise you, I promise I possibly will be able to get you an offer in compromise. What did they really promise? Possibility. That's all they promised you. But you heard the pipe dream. You heard what you wanted to hear. Yes, I think you were qualified based on this little bit of information I asked you. But they didn't ask you all the questions that they need to ask you to qualify you. Now you're there and you're stuck and you're paying this amount. Then next thing you know is, well, because your situation's changed from what you told us originally, which nothing changed, you owe more money because they want more money to do this or do that. Now, in our business, hey, I may come in and talk to you and qualify you and say, hey, you're going to qualify for an installment agreement. Then we get into everything and we find out that realistically, if you make these 3 changes in your life, we can get you qualified for this as an offer in compromise. So then we are able to move you to the other program and use some of the fees that you paid for the installment agreement to help pay for the offer in compromise, and you'll pay us a little bit more. But I would rather do it that way and make the changes and then move you to something that you can qualify for that'd be better for you, than to charge you the full amount. The company we were competing with promised this guy he's going to get an offer in compromise. He still has several returns to do.
They promised him.
And wow. We're going to charge him $15,000 to do this. And I looked at him and I said, Jeff, you have $150,000 in your IRAs. You have $200,000 of equity in your house. You owe right now, without those couple years filed, which will add to it, $75,000. The most we think you'll add to it is another $50,000. That's $125,000 debt to the IRS. Guess what? You have enough assets to pay that debt off. It is not possible in any way, shape, or form that you can qualify for an offer in compromise. He goes, they mentioned something about transferring my IRA to my kids. What? That's fraud. You go for it. And if you choose to use them, hire an attorney to bail you out for fraud.
Wow.
You can't do that. Dissipated assets, transferring things out of your name just to prevent paying the IRS. They're going to find it. They're going to see it. And then they're coming after you. Full force, both barrels loaded. And we wish you good luck. Because don't come calling me. I'm not going to defend you. We'll refer you to a criminal attorney. Because that's what it is. You really got to watch that person that says, this is what we're going to do, and hadn't even asked the right questions. And I know you don't know what the right questions are, because when we ask them, we're asking not just how much money you make and what your wife makes, but we're also asking about all your assets, your vehicles, your cars, your 401ks, your IRAs, your equity in your house, any other assets. life insurance, cash value, you name it, we've got to go through it. What do you own to determine where you should be going and what the solution should be? So don't fall for the easy peasy, lemon squeezy offering compromise that, hey, I'm going to promise you maybe you're going to get. Listen to all the words they say. Hey, another funny story. You ever get those scam calls saying you got tax debt? So, I've got one of those calls. Now, I like to play along. Yes, I now supposedly have tax debt. I mean, I was almost in tears with this guy, but I had to play along a little bit just because it was fun. And I was like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. How much? He goes, you don't know? I said, well, I get letters all the time, but I don't open them. So he goes, man, it's like $150,000 you owe. Oh my God, you got to be kidding me. No. And so I said, well, what can we do? He goes, I can get you an offer in compromise. Well, what's that? Can you explain that to me? He explained that, hey, I'm going to be debt free. We can settle for $1. Really? Okay, because I don't have anything. And he's like, but what do you, okay, what do you own? Well, I just have this little house. It's just a 3-bedroom house, 2 baths. Okay, well, what's it worth? Oh, right now, probably about $400,000, but I can't give that up. Oh, no problem. Do you have a loan on it? No, it's free. It's free and clear. I don't pay anything but property taxes. And those are expensive. Played him all the way. Do you have any money to put down on this thing? He wanted $20,000 from me.
How did you keep a straight face, Barry?
I had to play him all the way through. And he's like, well, can you go get a loan on the house? Well, my dad, he just left me $1 million and I think I can get some money off of that, but let me check and see. Can I call you back? I got every curse word in the book from this guy. When I turned around and I said, this call has been recorded and is being forwarded to the IRS Office of Professional Responsibility because I am an enrolled agent. I don't owe any tax debt, and you are a liar. He came out and told me everything about my mother and what my mother and him do and all these other fun things. And I just sat there and laughed. So you got to watch out. These guys are scam artists. That's all they are. Calling you.
I got to tell you, I've been getting a lot of calls, and they're all AI because they're not a real person. And I'm getting calls saying, we know you have tax debt, which I don't, but we know you have tax debt, and we can get you out of that tax debt. And I'm going, do they just do this to everybody? But I can imagine maybe an older person, maybe this scaring them and freaking out. What kind of scams do you hear out there?
Well, we hear that every day, people getting phone calls about their tax debts, and, the IRS isn't going to call. You even have to listen to what they say because, sometimes they're calling and it's, they say it really, really quickly. It sounds like the Internal Revenue Service, but they're not going to call you unless you've already been dealing with the IRS and you got a revenue officer. They send you letters. You'll know if you got tax debt. You should be getting letter after letter from the IRS saying, hey, pay this, it's due. There are people that'll send out lien letters and it look like it's coming from the IRS. You kind of got to watch those things as well. If you're unsure about whether
they email, Barry?
No, they don't email either. You watch your emails, but if you start seeing something like that, one of the best things to do, you can pick up the phone and call the IRS. You might wait a few hours to do it, but you'll have to verify who you are. If you do have tax debt and you have tax debt, pick up the phone, call taxationsolutions.net. It's 877-996-6477. The first thing we'll do for you is talk about what your problem is and, what you know about it. and how much you think you owe. And then we'll set you up to do a tax analysis to determine exactly what we can do, exactly what the IRS has on you, and pull records for you. We give that at a very low discounted rate. So if you call us and mention Ask the Experts tax analysis, we give you 50% off because we want to help. Had a nice old lady call us yesterday. She owes about $8,000. In her case, she's wanting to get back on an installment agreement. So we gave her a very low fee to put her on an installment agreement. We may decide she might want to go on non-collectible as we're working with her. And for that same fee, we're going to do the non-collectible status for her just to help her out. Everybody's situation is different. And you've kind of got to look at, what your ability to pay is and everything else. But when you start dealing with these people that are scam artists, they really don't care. All they care about is the money. They'll ask you, say that if they're saying they're from the Internal Revenue Service, they're going to ask you to go get a iTunes card or some kind of gift card and give them the money off of that because they know that you can't get it back from them. Whatever you do is get the phone number from them. Tell them you want to think about it and you'll call them back. And I'll tell you what, they're probably going to hang up the phone. Or they'll tell you to stay on the line with you while you go get that gift card and stuff. Hey, you can fake them out. Act like you're going to go and then give them some bogus number. See what they do. They'll curse you out. They'll tell you what they think of you. So you got to have a little bit of thick skin and go. Just ignore them. And if you owe money.
Hey, Barry, we just got a question from Bel Air, Texas. That's in Houston, isn't it? Bel Air?
Yep. They're their own city, but yeah, Houston surrounds them.
Really. This is kind of a different question. He wants to know if a person hires your company, does the IRS look down on you?
Who cares what the IRS thinks?
Yeah, really.
The biggest thing is you hire us, you don't have to deal with the IRS. You don't make phone calls. They don't call you. They call us. You're basically there to help us put together all the information that we need to present to the IRS to get you offering compromise, a payment plan, partial pay installment agreement, non-collectible status. If they want to look down upon anybody, they can look down upon me because I probably know a little bit more than they do most of the times.
Exactly.
Everybody that I'm dealing with. I've been doing this a long time. I always tell people in that situation, nobody really cares. If you talk to an IRS agent, they're going to tell you you don't need representation. Why? Because they can outsmart you. They can ask you the questions that you don't really need to answer or don't want to answer, but you answer because you think the guy's trying to help you. And all of a sudden now you get yourself in a little bit more hot water. They're coming after something else. Whereas, hey, we know how to deal with them. We know how to put it in the right light. We know how to work with them. We know how to get this payment plan, if you're going to be on a payment plan, to the lowest amount allowed. We know how to get you on a partial pay installment agreement, which you pay part of your debt off, but part of the debt falls off because of statute of limitations. We may put you in non-collectible status because the statute of limitations will run out. Sometimes we know how to stall the IRS long enough to let some of the statutes run out and they don't do any collections while we're out there. So there's a lot of different things we get to do. I have a lot of tools and stuff in my arsenal. As Steve said, it's David versus Goliath. I don't just have a rock in my sling. I've got a lot of other tools that I'm going to use to take care of this and deal with the tax problem, against the IRS. And real nice, we're a national company, but we're right here in Houston. We're in the Cypress area, Northwest Houston. We're here to take care of Houstonian Texans, friends and family all across the country. You name it, I've got clients in every state, but we do a lot right here in the Houston area as well.
Barry, it's funny. Someone had asked us during the show about how much you charge, and I think the most important thing is you can't give a figure because everybody's case is different. So
Absolutely.
there's not like it's not a cookie cutter thing. So it is very important that people understand that you do have a lot of tools in the bag. And if one thing doesn't work, something else. But folks, please, the most important thing is to be honest with Barry. Tell him exactly what you have because he can only deal with the information you give him. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Uh, if you don't give me all the information, you basically disarm me, and I don't like to go into a fight or an argument, with an empty gun, so to say, with nothing in my arsenal. I like to be fully loaded and ready to go. If I get surprised by the IRS because you didn't tell me you had a piece of property that you own free and clear, or that you have 6 cars for you and your wife, the other 4 maybe for a couple of kids, but that you still own those cars if they're in your name, or maybe you just transferred the title out and gave them to your kids. We got to know those kind of things too. These are all questions that we ask so that we have the right tools in our arsenal to save you, because we get surprised occasionally by the IRS and they start asking us questions, especially if we've gone in and committed to doing an offer in compromise. The IRS does a complete check on everything that you've ever owned. And they start asking us questions. We've got to be able to answer them. So we've got to be fully loaded to defend you against the IRS. So that's why we tell people we want you to be completely honest. We don't want you contacting the IRS. You get involved in calling the IRS, it stops our engagement because now you've overridden what we've been doing or we've been working on. Whether it's been for 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, or a year, everything may have just been for nothing because you started calling the IRS and made our job, more critical, more of a problem, and harder. We want full disclosure. We're always going to give you full disclosure of what we're doing, where we're at, what we need, and sometimes being in too much communication, because I get that a lot of times too. Man, you call us way too many times. We want you to be up to date, but we also want to know that you're available and you'll be able to answer questions quickly when we need the answer as well. So that's why we're always staying in touch with you.
Barry, you have a show that you do on Mondays, right?
Absolutely. This last show, Tax Talk for You, Monday, 10 a.m., right here on W4CY Radio. And you can go to taxtalk4you.com, see our Facebook page, our Instagram page. Never miss a show. Just follow us over there as well. We're going to continue the next few weeks talking about this one big, beautiful bill. And we're going in detail. We did our first show last Monday, so you should be able to see our podcast. That was just yesterday. This week seems like it's been a long, long time. We did the one big, beautiful bill. We talked about the standard deduction and all the other changes that were happening there on the personal side. We still have 2 or 3 more shows worth of discussing this one big, beautiful bill. Next week's show, next Monday, will be on the business side of the one big, beautiful bill.
Oh, good.
Man, I keep getting tongue-tied to that, so I just need to call it the OBBB.
Yeah, right.
But again, if you got a tax problem or anybody else in your family has a tax problem, send them to taxationsolutions.net. Remember, .net, safety net, taxationsolutions.net, and that is 877-996-6477. Again, 877-996-6477. Free consultation, free phone call. Let us talk about what the problem is, how you got into the problem, what your ability is to settle. We can discuss that with you in this great free consultation, but you got to make the phone call. We're not calling you. We don't do outbound calls unless you've called us. Give us a call. Let us help you get away from your debt with the IRS.
Just imagine this. You've got all this pressure on you from the IRS. you don't want to pick up the phone, you're afraid to go out, you hire a company like Taxation Solutions, and that pressure goes away. It's transferred over to Barry, but he loves doing this though. But it takes all the pressure off of you. And if you got a business, try getting the IRS on the phone and see how long you have to be on hold for, right, Barry?
Absolutely. We got a priority line, so we get in a little bit quicker. Sometimes we don't, because we've got to go through collections as well. And I've sat on the phone for 2 or 3 hours. But life is a choice, realistically. If you want to get rid of
the number out one more time, Barry.
If you want to get rid of the stress, call us at 877-996-6477. And again, it's taxationsolutions.net, 877-996-6477. Hey, as always, Steve, thank you very much, man. We love Ask the Experts.
Love you, bro.
Being here.
And you're going to be back in 2 weeks with us for another Ask the Expert show. Barry, thank you. Stay safe. We love you, bro.
Thank you.
That's Barry Fowler, Taxation Solutions. That's it for us today. We'll be back in with you next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.